All right, folks, it is the guy with the bow tie checking in with you live for another edition of Business with Benefits. To my right, you have Erika Warfield. How you doing, Erika?
Hello, how are you, Daryl?
Good. Ready to have some fun with you. We had some good engagement leading up to this. I'm excited. I want to say, first off, thank you to hashtag Team Live, hashtag Team Replay. However you consume it, we appreciate it, and thank you for being here. And Erika and I have met through the interwebs through all engagement and connections and commenting, so it's good to have this happen. So for people that don't know who you are and what you do and why you're so phenomenal on LinkedIn, let them know.
Oh, why I'm so, that's so kind of you. I don't see myself as being phenomenal on LinkedIn. I hope I can live up to that one day. Basically, my name is Erika Warfield. I'm with a company called Metagrowth Ventures. And basically, we work with C-suite executives and venture startups and small business owners. Basically, anybody that might be in digital marketing or IT, and they seek us out for a very specific set of skills. And that is they want to scale for 10x growth in a way that is smart, safe, efficient, effective, and works with their current systems. And so they ask us to build for them basically their own completely remote, completely accountable, and completely well-trained 100% commission sales teams. And those are folks that can not only source a B2B C-suite executive, they can get them closed for you. And then you get to increase your multiplier and stop founder selling.
Oh, got myself muted. Good intro. I feel like you said that a few times.
Just a little bit. That was the elevator pitch. Hope it didn't sound canned.
Hey, well, there's no more elevator pitches now because we can't get an elevator. So it's your value proposition, as they call it.
That's right. That's right.
But so let's start off there. So I'll check in with the audience in a quick second. Founder selling. I think that's a term people don't always understand or associate with. So what is founder selling for people that don't know?
Yeah, founder selling. Many people, I think, are doing founder selling and they don't realize they're doing it. And founder selling, really what that refers to is if you're a founder, you have started up your own company and you either, one, don't have anybody selling for you. And so you are the one that's doing all of the prospecting, all of the sales calls, all of the closing, and then you're being your own account executive on top of that. Or you have a sales force, but maybe they're underperforming. And you have to hold their hand, and they might be able to source somebody, but then they can't do the appointments, and then they can't do the closing. And so founder selling kind of incorporates a broad umbrella of where you're basically codependent within your own company. And if you ever wanted to sell your company, you can't sell your company because the company needs you too much. So that's kind of the gist of founder selling.
Okay, so kind of like almost like the owner operator when you see like the cleaning company where the owner is the operator, or the Stanley steamer guy, stuff like that.
Right,
okay.
Exactly.
And to catch up with the audience, we had Catherine out there in Florida. She said hi. Thanks for jumping in, Catherine.
Hi, Kathy.
And Mahida, or Mahedi, I don't want to say the name wrong. If I butchered, I apologize. She said hi. Thanks for jumping in, sir. And Peter, a friend of yours. Peter said, yeah. Hey, Peter.
Hey, Peter. Full disclosure, Peter's my husband.
Okay. It's funny when that happens on LinkedIn and I'm like, oh, that's your spouse. So thanks for the heads up.
Yeah, why are those two flirting? They're clearly flirting.
And then Joseph, he said, hey, out there for Metagrowth.
Hey, Joseph.
Wayne Cole, a friend of mine, doing wow with his Ric Flair impersonation.
Oh.
And then something else. I can't see who that is. But thank you for saying great to see you, Erika. For some reason, the name's not showing up. And
I bet that's
okay. And then Joseph. Oh, this is just commenting people to tag to watch this. So you're getting some tags for people wanting to tune into you. So owner, operator, founder selling, that's an issue. And it's probably very prevalent on LinkedIn, especially right now. So why do you think that's a big issue businesses have, that they have this founder selling mentality or this problem they're stuck into?
Well, and founder selling is not just in terms of the smaller businesses like owner operator. This could be much larger businesses. In fact, usually we're working with clients that are at annual sales of $2 to $10 million. So it happens all the way up into that level of business practice. With that said, I think folks have tried to do full commission sales or have on some level. I was talking with somebody the other day and they said, oh yeah, we're doing that, but we started with our friends. And I thought, you pitched being a full commission salesperson to your friend to learn your product or your service, and you're wondering why this doesn't work. But there is a specific formula to making full commission sales work. And I think once people understand what that formula is, there's about 4 separate ingredients for that secret sauce, where once you have them, you can literally scale your business on a wash, rinse, repeat cycle. Most founders don't have the infrastructure or understand where to start, or they think full commission doesn't work. And then on top of that, they may not have the 4 different ingredients. So that's like a very broad answer to that question, but any of them could be at play.
Okay, well, I like this because I've been full commission for the last 7 years, and it was basically a jump and leap of faith, if you want to call it that, or I was just hard-headed and didn't want to take a pay cut. And it's been an interesting world being full commission for other people. So I don't want to give away your full secret sauce, but explain how you want to, what those elements are, what the key components are to make full commission work.
Right. And think back on your career, like where it was not a headache for you as a full commission person versus when it was a horrible headache. And so if we really had to get in the mind and step into the shoes, because I'm full commission as well, step into the shoes of a full commission salesperson, one of the things that you need to have is sales cycle. And if your sales cycle is longer than 45 days, that's a really long time to ask a full commission salesperson, hey, could you work and not get paid? It's a really long time. So you could be an IT company per se and have an enterprise solution that maybe it does take a year to close. But if you have smaller SaaS products to fill in that gap, then that could work. But typically sales cycle not being any longer than 45 days. The second is it works best with recurring revenue. Products if you have a subscription model. The third is B2B versus B2C. It can work with B2C. It's just with meta growth. Our wheelhouse is really B2B. This is what we've got it dialed into. And the last is the vertical. Really, we have outliers. Most of our clients are digital marketing or some form of IT, whether that's SaaS, WAS, PaaS, MaaS, FinTech, HIT. The whole alphabet soup, cybersecurity, cloud computing. But really, we do have clients that are outliers of those 2 verticals, but we've noticed that it works really well within those 2 verticals. So those are kind of the 4 different ingredients.
Okay, and I can think about the sales cycle probably was a challenge for me because I think my first sale was probably 6 weeks in. So that 45-day thing was very real because it was about 45 days my first sale. So as the owner that's used to having salary, they used to have a salary, people on a salary and they're underperforming. I know you mentioned that in the post. Why does that model seem to not work as well as the 100% commission model you're pushing?
This is my personal belief. It's also what I've seen from a professional standpoint. I think when there are instances where you do need to have salaried, obviously, if your sales cycle is longer than 45 days, again, you can't ask a full commission person or anybody really to go that long without a paycheck. But I think in terms of salaried in general, it's a very different mindset to be a full commission salesperson. You really are a hunter. You do not eat unless you have killed. And the other side of that is what you become passionate about is the fact that you have unlimited earning potential. Somebody who is a salaried salesperson or somebody that comes to us thinking, well, I don't even want to interview unless I can have a salary. Well, that right there is our tip off that you're going to become complacent.
Yeah.
You just are. Salaried salespeople are a little bit more complacent. And I'm referring to the ones that have the shorter sales cycle and they still want the salary. You should be able to hunt, eat, and, kill and eat, on a 45-day sales cycle. We prefer it to be under a month, but at max 45 days, you should be able to do that. And if you can't and you're still saying salary, I think founders and owners and C-suites, executives, whether you're a CTO, a CFO, or a CEO, I would take another look at that when a salesperson is demanding a salary on a short sales cycle, because there's really no reason for it.
Yeah, I find that as I interview people and I get that response of I need to have a salary, I kind of think of sales like you haven't really produced anything to be paid. I mean, and that might be harsh to say that, but your job is to make a sale, create a sale. So it's kind of counterintuitive to me. I've had salary sales jobs before where I had a small base plus commission, but when I kind of thought about the math of that, like I could make way more commission if I'm actually doing what I'm supposed to do instead of just resting on my laurels and waiting for a check to come in. So is that kind of the biggest crux of it? They find better salespeople, you think, by doing it in your model?
Oh, I think so. I think so. If we go back to that sales cycle and if it's recurring revenue structure, and then, then we haven't even talked about what percent of the margin of the sale after COGS are you giving that salesperson? That's another factor to consider. But yes, I definitely think once somebody has the four ingredients and you find the right person with the right amount of experience in your vertical, and they have sales experience on top of that, and they understand, your performance is what is what's going to get you paid. And not to belittle the issue, but I kind of think of this when not a lot of people know this about me, and they may not even care, but there was a period of time where I was working on my master's in a former Soviet bloc country. And they had just only been out of communism for 5 years when I was working on my master's there. So they were making this switch to capitalism and trying to wrap their brain around, pay for performance versus I'm still going to get paid every time I put a staple in the stapler and punch a stack of papers. And there would be people, that was their job. They were the staple puncher. And they still got paid no matter how many staples went through, no matter how many packets got stapled, they still got paid. And so when they made that switch to capitalism of pay based on performance, it was sort of blowing their minds. And the younger generations were all over it. They were like, what? Now I have unlimited earning potential. And so that's sort of where I see the difference between a salaried salesperson and a full commission salesperson. And I'm sure I'm going to raise the hackles of many salaried salespeople. But again, I go back to the sales cycle. The sales cycle has to be there.
Yeah, some of those sales cycles might be prolonged just because of the fact there's a cushy salary. I mean, and they might just take longer. Like, I could take 3 months to do this or 6 months because I got a check coming in. But as the owners thinking about doing this, there's probably a better cost to them because they're basically saying, you brought something to the table, I'm going to pay you off of that versus me just hemorrhaging money every single month hoping you get something.
There's that. And then there's the whole question of how much do I give the salesperson to, do their job? Like, for example, we've sort of gamified things for our in-house sales team. So, for example, I was not given a ring light. I was not given sales navigator. I was not given whatever it was, right? Until I booked X many appointments, until I closed X many deals. And then once I showed I could do what needed to be done as a salesperson, I was given certain sales tools on top of my commission. Because I think we all think, and salespeople in general, we got to a place where there were just a lot of demands. Not only do I want unlimited earning potential, but I also want a salary, and I also want, per diem, and I also want gas money, and I also want, whatever it was, cell phone, laptop. And I think, especially now in this age of remote, everybody's working from home. So half of those don't even become an issue anymore.
Right.
And then it becomes, okay, you still need to prove yourself as a salesperson before I get you like sales navigator for LinkedIn, before I get you, other AI, or I get you other, on SaaS products, and I think that's a big change in thinking for a lot of C-suite executives of how do we motivate the sales team and yet give them this opportunity that's really legitimately there for 6 figures at the end of 1 year.
Yeah, that's what's interesting when you think about what's going to COVID-19. A saying I just recently heard was that the reason we have trouble reinventing ourselves is we hold on to the way things used to be. And I see that with people that I deal with sometimes in just different agencies and firms I deal with, that they're used to going in the door, they're used to walking in, and that's all changed right now. So the model's almost been flipped for a lot of people that maybe they did give you per diem before, maybe they did give you gas and all those things. And now they're like, hey, we got to get any kind of deals we can get right now. So as this transition of COVID-19 right now, have you seen an uptick in more people wanting 100% commission versus pre-COVID?
You know, before pre-COVID, we were seeing candidates, they were outstanding. They were absolutely outstanding. We were seeing people with 5 to 10 years in the vertical, like if it were digital marketing or IT or corporate events, whatever. We were seeing 5 to 10 years experience. And then we were seeing they also had sales experience. We were seeing younger baby boomers, older Gen Xers. They were just done with corporate. You know, I think all of us kind of got to that point of why have I been here for so long? And I'm having to ask you permission to take a 2-hour lunch to go take my child to the doctor. Why am I asking that? You know, I'm a grown adult. And so we were seeing really highly qualified candidates. And then COVID happened and everybody was having to work remotely where we had always been remote. And what we were then seeing was 20 years in the vertical on top of sales experience. And people were realizing, wait a minute, all these meetings really could have been handled by email and you were making me come into brick and mortar. No, I'm not going back. I'm not going back. I'm going to find a remote gig. And so we actually exploded because of COVID. That on, you know, the recruiting end of things, because people do hire us to then turn around and be like an outsourced sales manager where we hire performance coach, build their sales teams of 1099 contractors for them. On the flip side, we started booming because C-suite executives were noticing that the sales teams they had that were in-house, once they went remote, some of them were not performing. And they're like, how do I make these people accountable? Yeah. They started turning to us because we knew how to make folks accountable, and not just make them, but they were gladly and willingly being accountable based on the 94,000 hours of performance coaching experience we could share with them to say, yes, not only do you have the potential of earning 6 figures, we're going to give you a performance coach to help you do it. And so then that made them willingly be accountable. Like, wait, yeah, you're like Michael Jordan. We're going to treat you like you're Michael Jordan and you're going to get a performance coach. So.
Yeah, this is what I find is the biggest challenge with the 1099 sales market, because my agents are 1099. And for years, I've heard people say it's a voluntary army. It's a volunteer army. They can just go if they want to. And this mindset of leadership is like they're going to come if they want to come, because there wasn't always a punishing accountability. But you're using the positive reinforcement accountability of coaching them and showing them the way through it. And Joseph added a comment real quick. He said, Erika understands about being a hunter salesperson. She's awesome to understand the sales process like no other. Aww.
Joseph.
But that kind of solidifies back to where you know what you're talking about, because with these salespeople, they're 1099, and yes, they have, you know, when you get into you're at home now, accountability is even harder. I think that it's a bigger deal. When you're in the office, you had Bill walk by and see you in the office, like, make more calls. But now when you're at home, you don't have that. So talk about that accountability piece for people that are thinking about, or they already have 1099 salespeople, that accountability piece with working from home.
Well, I think where I need to start is there's a big difference in having an in-house VP of sales or an in-house sales director versus a performance coach, you know, and that's the easiest way I can explain metagrowth is it would be like a founder or a C-suite is outsourcing their director of sales, right? And then they're building their 1099 team of contractors and then coaching them to success. And if we can get each one of their salespeople to 6 figures at the end of the year, how much monthly recurring revenue are we scaling for you simultaneously? So when someone's reporting to an in-house VP of sales, and I'm not saying this is true of all of them, but in general, there's this sort of concept of coffee is for closers. Glengarry Glen Ross, did you make 100 sales calls today? Why didn't you? What was your conversion rate? You know, versus when you have somebody that's an outsourced performance coach, literally who has coached coaches in many different verticals. And we have many different performance coaches. We couldn't have 94,000 hours of coaching experience if we didn't have many of these coaches.
Right.
Saying, okay, let's have you fill in accountability software in the morning and accountability software at night, and you can schedule your day however you want. You just need to tell me, where are you at on a scale of 1 to 10, and where are you stuck? How can I help you get unstuck? And Really different to hear somebody say, no, I'm here for you. I believe in your success. I want you to earn six figures. Where are you stuck? Is it your scripts? Let's work on your scripts. Is it just a mental thing? Did you stub your toe? Did you, did something bad happen personally? Whatever it is, let me help you get unstuck. And I know for me, when I take, personality testing and whatever, like I score a 4 on reassurance. I don't need a lot of back pats and appreciation. I'm not that type.
Right.
But many other salespeople are that type. And so our performance coaches look at that from a personality standpoint, and they coach to the strengths and they coach to the weaknesses. And then they them along to get them to six figures. A VP of sales in-house might not do that and show that kind of appreciation.
That's helpful because I feel like, going through the ranks of what I do, when I first started out, CRM was a thing I wasn't very passionate about when I first started. I was run and gun. I knew I can kill something in a couple weeks or a couple days and be done and move on to the next one. And somewhere the light switch flipped when I became like not a salesperson and running my own business. And that's when I segued up. Marlon had a good comment. He said, if you're confident, well-trained, and have the support, 100% commission makes complete sense. Some things we take for granted as salary people on a salary tip. I agree with that, Marlon, because I realized I was a business owner when I kind of realized these are my clients. This is my relationship. So with you working with this, you have a great model of in the morning report and then the evening report. What do you do in a situation when that isn't done? Like that's your coaching piece. That's your coaching mechanism. What are you doing as a leader to help that, mitigate that when it doesn't happen? When it doesn't happen,
we actually have people assigned specifically to that, in terms of accountability. Yeah. So, reports are compiled or whatever else, but we do have people assigned to that help it along to kind of intercede, to really kind of be that ear.
Okay. It's kind of like having the best friend tell you instead of dad. Because when dad tells you, it's like, oh, like you said, big brother or kind of VP of sales doing it. It's kind of like your dad versus your friend saying, hey, man, pick yourself up. You're sucking right now. Do something better.
I was speaking to somebody who was a prospect, and he's thinking about becoming a client. And he kind of said this best. And he was so brilliant because I myself don't have children. So I don't know how to relate to it in that way. But he did. And he said, it's different when dad tells you, but he has children that are in college. And he said, I got every last one of them a business performance coach in college.
That's awesome.
Yeah, kind of like, if you were a parent and you paid for private clarinet lessons for your child, he was paying for a business coach for his college-age children to get them along and to, really coach them on performance. And he said, they will listen to anything that performance coach tells them. But if dear old dad tells them, being the well-trained entrepreneur he is, they won't listen to him. And he said, this is exactly the difference between having an in-house VP of sales versus having an outsourced sort of director of sales, sales manager, outsourcing the entire recruiting process, outsourcing the entire performance coaching process. He said he just totally got it. He was like, this makes sense. I'm going through this with my kids. So you hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, and then Peter added in here, being a commission-only salesperson, you find what you're truly passionate about with a limited earning potential. So Peter is preaching to the choir.
Yeah, Peter is the choir. Yes.
But back to the CRM piece. And so you're mentioning, like, you're a salesperson. You had to shout out earlier being a consummate saleswoman and knowing the whole process. How important to you is CRM as you're scaling up your business?
I think the CRM is huge. I think as a business owner, you need to know not only which CRM to use, what's going to be highly integratable, and this is not a pitch for HubSpot, but I will say HubSpot has some awesome integrations. It's so highly integratable. I think if you're newer, then it's probably something more like Pipedrive. But I think the reason the CRM is so important is we're human. There's so much going on. You can set up tasks. You can write notes. You can... I mean, there's no way you can remember every single prospect you spoke to. And if you're doing I don't care if it's 15 a week. I don't care if it's 200 a day. I mean, you're not going to remember everything, and you need to have that CRM, and then you can set up drip campaigns, and, you know, you can categorize people once you've talked to them, or even before you've talked to them.
Yeah.
And then you can set up the campaigns to keep, so you don't lose anybody in the funnel. I think CRMs are hugely important.
Yeah, I know. It seemed like in my life it became a policing tool. We thought it was a policing tool at first, and then as the more it kind of went on, I kind of came to that mindset of I forget things, and you got stuff written on cards and on Post-it notes and in binders and all that, and you just forget it. So it's important to have that system. And Marlon added on there, spot on, Erika, with the monitoring. Either you trust me to perform or you do not.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. And Peter added accountability partners.
Mm-hmm.
And love the executive business performance coach aspect. We have this format for particular aspects of my company, which was universal. P.S. I have this for my children too. Awesome. Okay, so Marlon's doing the same thing for his kids. I love it.
I'm smart. There was something about, you know, the dads as spiritual heads of household and realizing, okay, my kids have hit an age where I apparently don't know anything when I really do. I need to give them a performance coach.
There's like a gap of like until the kids are like teenagers or something. That's like, oh wait, now I get it. Because I know my dad. I'm you know, my kids are 12, 10, and 2, and in the last year or two, I'm like, I get it. Before that, I was like, no, I know what I'm doing. I'm the dad. I got this, and it's like nothing mattered. But now it's like, oh, Dad, sorry. I understood what you were saying all those times, telling me what to do. But as the business owner's trying to get themselves out of founder selling, so this is probably a hard concept. They're like, I'm the one that closed the deals. I'm the one that brings the money in. What's that transition like, or how difficult is it for that owner to make that transition into not being the front, you know, the front chair?
Well, I think for most of our clients, they've come to that place of they're tired of getting punched in the face by the revolving door that maybe their sales team, or just they don't have the bandwidth anymore to do the prospecting. So on some level, they are there mentally and emotionally by the time, you know, they decide, yes, I would like to partner with you. And understandably so. It's a lot of stuff to have, you know, on your plate. As a founder and as an owner or a CXO, just in general, maybe with a smaller team of people because you're a startup. I think it's best put like this. Our sole goal is realizing that there is a pivotal moment in your life as a founder or as a C-suite where you look down, and this isn't my saying, this is my COO saying, Joe Arioto, but there's a pivotal moment where you will look down at your calendar and suddenly you will see appointments in there that you yourself did not schedule. And it might be your new salesperson and they're booking their calls and you're going to sit in on a couple of them just because it's maybe their first or second day. And then there's this magical moment when you're a founder, and that is when you get handed a check from a client you've never, ever met in your entire life. That is the point we want to get you to at Metagrowth Ventures. We want you to have the pivotal moment and we want you to have the magical moment. You're not going to have either until you have a really well-trained, accountable sales team doing that sales grind for you. Because here's the other component of it that I think a lot of founders miss. If the company is solely dependent upon you in a very codependent, dysfunctional way, where you're the guy, at some point down the road when you want to retire or if you want to sell, you will not be able to sell. There will be no multiplier. And anybody that wants to buy from you will do one of two things. They will either not buy because they don't want you to come along with the sale, or you're going to get lowballed so badly and you will be so disgruntled and offended by it that the sale won't happen at all. So it's one of those two things when you don't have that sales team in place, you know, that you are really truly a chief executive officer and not a chief exaggeration officer.
I like when you said that. Yeah.
Well, how many times have you worked for somebody like that, right? Where they said that they were the CEO, but they had maybe either 0 reports or 4. And they might have been some BDRs in the Philippines.
Right, yeah.
Direct reports.
Yeah, they kind of outsource the wrong things the wrong way. So that does happen quite a bit.
Right.
And we had a question here from Jonathan Dews. He said, how do you feel about sales engagement platform versus a CRM? So this is a good technical question. So sales engagement platform versus a CRM.
Now, Jonathan, when you say a sales engagement platform, are you talking about some sort of online product or a SaaS product that does the initial outreach? Are you talking about what exactly? I want to make sure I clarify that so I don't speak out of turn.
Yeah, Jonathan, give us that, because if I think about it, there are some gamified CRMs that are kind of a little more engaging on the salesperson side, where you level up and get points and stuff like that. I think he might mean that, but we'll wait for Jonathan to clarify that. But you plugged HubSpot there as a good CRM. So is that part of this conversation? We talked to an owner about transitioning out as part of that conversation, a good CRM to help them see the ship is moving in the right direction?
That's part of it, because even though we're building their 1099 team of contractors, and those team of contractors are sourcing C-suite executives for them and decision makers, they're not sourcing gatekeepers. They're sourcing B2B C-suite executives for our clients. They are sourcing to get around the gatekeeper. They are speaking directly to a decision maker at all times. That's really key to know if you own your own business. But part of that is, once they've sourced them, they have to go somewhere, and it needs to be your own CRM. So for any reason somebody decides to leave, you still have the lead, or whatever that reason may be. You need to maintain your own leads. And so the CRM becomes absolutely critical for that. So all of our clients typically will have a CRM already in place when they come to us. If they don't, then we can make recommendations.
Okay. And he clarified, he said, essentially a lead management software. So I think it's what you were alluding to, kind of the initial outreach and kind of managing leads. So they sound like they're separate, but important to tie together, from your opinion, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, I think if I'm reading that right, the CRM is absolutely critical. The lead management software, I would say this. I think that there is something going on, and Jonathan can correct me on this if I'm going the wrong direction. I think there's this thing going on with LinkedIn right now where folks are basically spamming the DMs. And my assumption is they are utilizing some sort of lead management software to do that, because it's happening automatically. And if that is the reference, I would say I would definitely not use anything like that for LinkedIn.
Please don't.
I think the spamming has gotten out of control on LinkedIn, so much so that I get a lot of connection requests that I'm very grateful for. But I've calculated the conversion rate on this, and over half of them will spam me in the next message upon.
I probably get that too. Now, I haven't broken down, but it's probably about like that for me too. I asked somebody the other day, he sent me like a go to my page and like this post, like the first thing he sent me. I'm like, I don't even know if you're a real human at this point.
Yeah. And so I really think any outreach one does needs to be personal. It needs to give value. And whenever I have seen somebody utilize some sort of an automated campaign, I've never seen anything of value. It doesn't focus on the benefits. It basically wastes the receiver's time. It's wasting the company who sent it time. And I think I think those spamming in the DMs, it's basically a demand on others without providing any value whatsoever. And I think Brennan Manning said it best. He said, in every encounter, we either give life or we drain it. There is no neutral exchange. So for us as a company, we absolutely believe in a personal outreach that gets around the gatekeeper and goes straight to the decision maker. And I don't think you can necessarily do that with anything that's automated per se.
I agree. My two-year-old decided to interrupt me real quick, so pardon me, guys, as I switch something for her. But
that's
something...
Okay.
Live internet. But also to speak to that, so I mean, there are lead management softwares like I've seen Close. Close is kind of like a CRM / reminds you automatically, like, hey, you even talked to Bill in 2 weeks. That's kind of lead management, I think, but it doesn't mass spam people. So as someone that gets a ton of messages just like I do, what do you think it takes to kind of get people to stop doing that? Because it drives me crazy where I respond back. Like, does this actually work? Does anybody actually respond to this? And I'll take that stance on. Say it again.
What are you doing?
Yeah, that's kind of what I take as the approach, because I'm trying to help clean the platform up a little bit. Like, hey, come on. Like, we all know there's decision makers here. We all know businesses pass in LinkedIn, but that doesn't mean you just think it's dollars flying in the air. So what is it you do for these new salespeople that come in like, hey, I'm going to get on LinkedIn and just hammer people every day? What is the way to help that as you're building commission salespeople out?
Well, I think there were like three things that you just addressed in there. First, the CRM, you can set it up as a task manager. So it actually can act as a lead management software tool. I use it for that, because if somebody says, hey, follow up with me on such and such date, or not right now because I'm putting notes in, I'm setting up tasks with specific dates of when to follow up with them, and a reminder with what I'm supposed to be following up on exactly. Is it just checking in? Was their father okay after he went to the hospital? Or was it this person's ready to go, and I'm checking in because it's now Q3 and you asked me to? You can do all of that in your CRM. I think in terms of the new salespeople and the spamming and what is it going to take to make it stop, I don't know if people are aware of this, but LinkedIn's already putting things in place to make that stop. I know I was doing another podcast last week and we were discussing this, where the both of us had noticed on separate occasions, we had gotten some form of spam, and I don't even remember what it was. I think it was a link, but I went to click on the link and it disappeared. And it took to a dialogue page that said, this content is no longer available. And I didn't know what that meant. And the person I was talking to said, oh yeah, LinkedIn is starting to set up algorithms to catch the spam.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I was like, woo!
That's awesome.
Yeah, I don't know what triggers it. I don't know if it's links. I don't know if it's certain phrases and keywords they're looking for, when somebody types something. I don't know what sets it off, but LinkedIn they're starting to monitor the DMs for that. I don't know how big brother I feel about that, because
I mean, your email does it too, though. I mean, the spam filter in the email. So I guess it's different because it's your social media inbox. But I think if I see a link in a message you send me, I'm almost like instantly not going to read it. Or if I see an attachment, I'm like instantly like, nope, no good. And it could be well intentioned, but it's just like, it's the first thing you sent me. Ask me about my post I just did, or say something nice. Not to say we all deserve that pat on the back, but it's a social media. You're supposed to be social, not just sell people on things. And Melissa had a question that she put a comment, yeah. So she's saying yeah to that too.
Yes. It needs to stop. And so the third part of what you were saying was, how do we deal with it with new salespeople? We have I don't want to say rigid. Rigid's not the right word, but we have very value-driven training. For anyone's team of 1099 contractors, in terms of, okay, we know maybe how you did it in the past, but this is a whole new world, and this is how you do it correctly. This is how you provide value. With each client, they'll go through an onboarding month with us, and we're working through who is going to be their ideal salespeople. Who are we going to be filtering for in terms of decision makers? What are their scripts? Do we need to do a sales process completely from scratch, working with the C-suites executives? So everything that we do is very, very personalized. It's very much hand in glove with what the C-suite would want. But then we bring our thousands upon thousands upon thousands of hours of experience, not only in coaching, but in sales and in particular verticals and in recruiting. So with that said, we really work with each salesperson and understanding they come with their own set of years and years of skills. And then we work with, okay, let's teach you how to do this in the new world. And they're
I like that.
Receptive to it. They're very receptive to it, because we're never going back to brick and mortar the way we did.
Yeah, that's why I was just talking with my mentor about my office. Like, I'm not probably going back in there the rest of this year. I mean, I'm in Georgia, and Georgia has a very tumultuous state with COVID-19 right now. The governor fighting the mayor of Atlanta about mask or no mask. So I'm like, I'm just going to stay home. Virtual has been working okay. I just got to adapt to it and get used to it. But you said something real interesting about your CRM. You use it as a task manager versus like a chore. So you use it to keep track of all your tasks. So would you say that's the biggest lift or mindset adjustment for a salesperson, to use it as a task manager versus something to do?
I think once a salesperson understands the value of operating it as a task manager, it actually saves you time. And if it saves you time, that means you might have more time to go for a walk or ride your bike or go do something else. So when they understand the value of, if you save time here, you're going to buy time here, and that might be for your personal life, then they're all over that. So let's say, for example, in some CRMs, there's something called a task queue. And so when you click on the task queue, it automatically looks at your tasks for the day and it lets you just rifle through them. So maybe you have 6 for the day, you're going to be done in 10 minutes. You know, if you have 43 for the day, that might take you a couple hours, but it literally just lets you rifle through the tasks, and you don't have to keep, okay, here's this name, let me do the task. Okay, let me go get this other name, let me do the task. The task queue, you just start rifling through. So I think once salespeople are trained on that and what is the exchange of value, they're all over it. Because I think most salespeople would rather go spend time, you know, with their kids.
Yeah.
Than, you know, try to hunt and peck through the tasks.
Yeah, no, with this new digital age we have to work through, I mean, that's super vital to have an organized system, because that's definitely been the hard thing about this. When you mentioned that they had this cozy in-office sales team and they were doing okay, and now they're at home, they're doing horrible. So I think that's a valuable tip for people to share, is that you use your CRM to help them keep their day organized and use it as a task manager. Now, you mentioned you have a film and music and radio background, so I wanted to delve into that and how that's helped you with sales, because I noticed some of the best salespeople I know have a artistic side to them. So do you think that's helped you a lot, your film and radio background?
Absolutely. Well, because I do a lot with video. So a lot in the Zoom calls. And so a lot of the presentations I do, everything I do with presentations or Zoom calls. And so I would say yes. I'm probably one of the few that thinks in bullet points, because specifically what I did on camera was host work. And so a lot of the times, if you don't have a teleprompter, you're not thinking in script, you're thinking in bullet points. And what do I need to cover? And then can I ad lib off the bullet points? And I think that's really, really important if you're in sales, because I think a lot of new salespeople get hung up on the, am I reading the script word for word? You know, can you see my eyes going back and forth? Because here it is, I'm reading my script. And if you just think in bullet points, these are the 5 I have to cover, and then I'm going to riff on each one, it becomes a much more natural process and you own it more. And I do think not being afraid of the camera, being able to look direct to camera rather than at a script where you can see my eyes aren't really engaging. Even if, even if somebody says, I don't want my camera on so I can control the conversation, which I have had happen, I'll say, well, that's okay, because if you had the camera on, I'm trained to study your breathing patterns and look at your rapid eye movement and any dilation you might have going on in your pupils. So that's okay. You can keep your camera off. And then that could come out. So,
oh my gosh, what did she just say? But that makes you say something interesting now. So you're training salespeople scripting. Let's just get into it. We're talking all the parts of different pieces of sales. I love scripts. I think it's an important part, and I look at it like bullet points like you do. But how do you feel like now when you're going to be on the phone a lot more, Zooming a lot more, how do you feel about scripting in the sales process?
I think scripting is essential. I think it's absolutely essential. And there does come a time where you might have to read the script, you know, especially in the beginning, you know, before you really have internalized everything about it. I'm specifically talking about when you've been there a little while longer, then you can move to bullet points. You can move to the pivots a little more easily, but always in the back of your mind is that initial script that you started out with. We record everything too. So, you know, when we work with people's teams, we're not just doing role play, we're doing real play. We might in our sales meetings say, all right, let's do this. Pull somebody up, call them right now. Want to hear what you do right now.
Oh, I love that. Real play versus role play. No, I love that, because I've actually started doing that on my team. We do call blocks every day from 9 to 11. And I'll just put my WebEx on and just open the mic up and they listen to me make calls, and I'm going to listen to them at the same time. So I like that real play versus role play.
Yeah. And because then you can actually hear what they're doing. For example, you know, and this is not gender specific. It could happen to male or female. In this case, I'm speaking about a female salesperson. But nobody realized until they heard the real play that she was smooth. I mean, just killing it, on point, on fleek, until she had to get to the price. And then when she got to the price, her voice jumped up about 3 octaves and she sounded like Minnie Mouse. So there was like a psychological disconnect once she got to having to discuss pricing, and that was killing any forward momentum on the sales call. And so you won't know that in a role play. You will find that out in a real play. And that's kind of what makes us different as well, you know, in building people's sales teams for them.
This is why Joe had a good comment. He said, Erika's an absolute genius. Listen to what she says and you can't go wrong.
That's sweet. Joe's my COO. I have to be totally transparent about that.
I tagged him earlier, so I know, but yeah. And Marlon said, Erika, now you really got me, bullet points. I actually teach on bullet point style. So Marlon actually has a sales team, so he teaches bullet point style too.
Awesome.
So
Marlon and I need to like do a virtual martini hour.
Marlon's awesome. I love, if you follow his content, he's a great family guy too and great salesperson. He also put real play, nice. Missy is a good comment. So exactly, it comes off more natural. I was in sales for 15 years or more. I also have a minor associates in theater. I think in bullets too, especially when I teach classes. There's no way I can remember word for word. Good point. Definitely. And then hubby had in there, keyword equals listen.
What?
You said keyword is listen. Oh, you got me. You got me.
It's funny that the husband said that.
That is funny to hear the husband say that, but that means both of you are good listeners, I guess. We'll just throw it out there and say both of you are good listeners. But so right now we're in this digital space. So one last thing I want to hit on before we get out of here is you're working in digital marketing, obviously, but you mentioned pull them up, let's call them. So as someone that does all different channels of sales, with the COVID-19 environment, what would you say from your data in training and coaching has been the most, not consistent, but the most impactful channel for communication? Is it email? Is it DMing? Is it phone calls? What do you think is the most impactful communication a salesperson could have?
I think all of them. Honestly, when I think of everything that we use, you know, it depends on the prospect. Some people are like really avid users of LinkedIn, and you have to know how to filter for that, basically. You know, so I think just because we have COVID, and yes, we do Zoom, and yes, we do video, you still need to be willing to text or email or call or, you know, LinkedIn DM without spamming. You still have to have all of that available. But I think the key thing is no matter what vehicle you use, it's got to be about creating value. It's got to be about what are the benefits to the person on the other end, and remembering that the person on the other end, they've got a sign they're wearing that says, make me feel important, make me feel special. Don't let this be about you, the speaker. Let this be about the person on the other end. And I think no matter what vehicle you use, if you do any of that and create the win-win, then it's truly that. It's a win-win.
I love that you said that, because I find myself repeating that to my team sometimes, is that the same thing I'd say on the phone, I'd say in person, I'd say in the email, I'd say in the text. It's the same, because I'm trying to communicate value. It's the same messaging. So super important to say that. And I think when you're building sales teams, I'm sure that messaging comes out in your training is provide value. I'm sure that's the crux of everything you guys are teaching. Mm-hmm. And then Marlon said he would love to have that virtual drink. I'm a seltzer water dude.
Me too. My martini is like the lemon drop martini is really lemonade in a martini glass. So
I wanted to see Nick get on here, because I know Nick said if I had you and him on live, we'd be talking. I wouldn't get a word in edgewise, but I'm sure he's going to catch the replay.
If you got Nick and I talking about weird stuff, we would never stop. We'd be like, let's talk about ancient aliens. And then we'd be off.
Oh, one last thing I want to ask you about. You said something weird, not weird, but interesting. You've been masterful at using GIFs for your, and I call them GIFs. I know it's GIF for GIF, but for using GIFs for your marketing posts. So you put out there like a skills party or an endorsement party. Talk about that process and what that's done for you, because it's very much a giving kind of a post, but talk about that and why you did it and how much impact it's having on your network.
Well, you know, I actually started #SkillSet Saturday at the recommendation of Ira Bellman, who is digital marketing genius. He is the hashtag LinkedIn daddy. If Ira's on here, and if you don't get a chance to do it later, follow Ira. You will grow quickly. But I started Skill Set Saturday based on Ira's recommendation, and it really was about giving. And that is, it's almost like a connection post. And it kind of is, because if you're a second line, you do have to connect to other people before you can give endorsements. But it's basically a big endorsement party, because I don't think people understand that these skill sets are really keywords. And if you don't feel comfortable giving endorsements, just give endorsements for the things that you can take from their profile. Like, oh, I do see that they're really great at writing, so I'll endorse them for copywriting. You know, you don't have to endorse all of their keywords, but to understand that they are keywords, and that is SEO. And every time you give an endorsement, it's like hitting the little SEO bell in LinkedIn, you know? And so for me, it was, since I'm the host, anybody that rings in on that post, I'm endorsing every one of their skill sets. Yeah. And if they have 50 or if they have 4, they all get an endorsement from me. Now go off and do it for everybody else. And so everybody can build up their SEO and their keywords on those Saturday endorsement posts. But it's very time consuming. I remember the first Saturday I did it. I literally sat at my laptop for 11 hours straight. Like,
man,
oh my gosh, I can't keep up with this.
That's a lot of engagement, though, but at the same time, that's providing value, because I know people are, there's this, it's like Democrats and Republicans with the whole connection post, like, hey, like this post and connect and everything. And I know people feel differently about that, but to me, it's basically just more eyes on you. The more eyes that are on you, the better. And whether they're in Sri Lanka or Jamaica, you never know who else sees that. So I saw what you were doing with that, and I thought that was a very great idea. And like you said, you don't have to put stuff you don't know. I think that's what people get twisted with that. Don't endorse it unless you feel comfortable. So I'd actually do it. I'll look at their posting and say, oh, you post on social media all the time. I'll post for social media, or give you an endorsement for social media. Yeah. Or I see you have a good picture. Your pictures are great. I'll give you an endorsement for that. So if you guys haven't seen that, make sure you follow Erika for that, because it's a great chance to help level up your endorsements and skills. Because it's helped me have people find me in Ohio, different countries, different states, because of my skills on LinkedIn.
Oh my gosh, that makes me so happy. Yes.
It's weird that it happens, but it happens. And Joe had a good comment for you. He said, love the interview. Thank you, Joe, for that. And he said, Erika is a giver. It's really her superpower. Erika knows how to give like no other, which I put this up after saying that. So that's funny we even had that. And then Peter said, and that's there to give to help you grow rather than to take. I like that. Because you got to give an endorsement. Yeah, yes, you might get one back, but you're giving endorsements. So 11 hours, that's giving. You spent 11 hours doing something you were giving, definitely.
Do you know who else was giving? Peter would run to Whole Foods and get me a bunch of chocolate mousse and just make sure I had chocolate mousse to keep me going as I was sitting there.
That's awesome, man. See, that's not an immediate sale. That's the thing that people don't get about that. What you did, that is not a right now sale. You're not going to get a right now sale from doing an endorsement party. But later on, it might come up 6 months later, a year later, but I mean, that happens. We're later to like, Erika, thank you for something you did 5 months ago you forgot about. But give value, people, whatever medium you use.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, Erika, I'm going to be respectful of your time. And then, Jonathan had a comment. I think that's an interesting idea. We'll try it. So, Jonathan, watch out for Saturday. Watch Saturday when Erika posts it. She has it on lock, definitely. And follow the hashtag. You get a great audience of people to talk to and endorse yourself and endorse them.
Absolutely. Give.
Well, Erika, where's some place you want to lead people to if we end this interview? Of course, they're going to find you on LinkedIn, but where's some places they should find you and ask you for more information?
I would say the best place is probably outside of LinkedIn and my LinkedIn business page. I would say go to erikawarfield.com. That's erikawarfield.com. And there is a ton of information on me and people I partner with and Meta Growth Ventures and my calendar.
Hit that Calendly link.
That's right. It's actually from HubSpot. You can do that through your CRM too.
I dabble with HubSpot. I'm using Dynamics right now, but I might have to get back into HubSpot. And Mark jumped in at the end. Love these tips. So Mark, he's a social media guy. So it's great tips. And to end this out, Peter said, people never forget the way you make them feel.
Especially when you give them chocolate mousse.
Well, Erika, this has been great. I'm looking forward to this. We've been kind of engaged for a while on LinkedIn, so everybody make sure you follow her content, and then the great people she knows. And we will catch you guys next time on Business